Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. And can you see my screen okay, Pam?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and because it's just me and you, you don't have to mute the phone because, like I said, it's just us. And if somebody comes on, we'll keep going, but we'll kind of play it by ear and see what happens from there.
Okay.
Okay, and then you don't have to state your name either because it's just the two of us.
Okay.
So we'll start with the warm-up. And I just asked for you to think about the following questions and then write down first ideas that come to your mind. And not necessarily write them down, but just try to think of 2 or 3 ideas for each of these topics. And one of the questions is, why have governments banned smoking in the workplace? I'm sorry, this is the example, excuse me. Why have governments banned smoking in the workplace? And this was the example that was in my textbook because, again, I said I have an older edition. And so this was some of the ideas that they wrote about this question. And it says secondhand smoke is dangerous for non-smokers. Some people have lung problems such as asthma. Anti-smoking groups lobby the government for these laws. So when thinking about this example and then continuing the warm, these are some other questions. What are some different ways that people cheat? And if you have any thoughts, you can. And if not, you can say, I have no thoughts.
People cheat on tests.
Okay, they cheat on tests. Can you think of some other ways or things?
They cheat in their marriage.
Okay. Can you think of anything else?
They cheat on, actually cheat on their time with God.
Oh, good one. Okay, very good. All of those were good answers. Okay, what about listing a few reasons why some businesses fail?
Poor management.
Okay, good. Can you think of anything else?
Lack of advertising.
Okay, good. Very good reasons. And then when you were an adolescent, did you rebel in any way? And then if so, what types of things did you do?
I rebelled in every way. It would be easier to say the things that I didn't do.
Wow. Well, just give me one example.
Drinking.
Okay. And I'm
alcohol.
Say it again.
Alcohol, yeah.
Alcohol. And I was trying to think of some things I did. I think maybe mine was not being obedient, and so in that aspect, staying out longer than I was supposed to past my curfew, and maybe even talking on the phone after my curfew. And this was before cell phones, so it was the house phone.
I can remember doing that.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember the phones that you used to just turn over to hang up.
Yeah.
And so, but you could hear like a beep or some kind of clicking noise on the other phone every time you picked it up or hung it up. So my dad would always hear the beep or whatever. So I would try to hang it up soft, but he always knew. So he'd come in there and, it's past your curfew, you're still on the phone. So,
always get caught.
Yes, exactly. Okay, well, our objectives for tonight are, by the end of this session, we will be able to explain the elements of a 3.5 essay in order to write a purpose essay, and be able to explain why you decided to go back to school, be able to use cause and effect to explain purpose, and then be able to explain transition words and give several examples. Some of these we've kind of already done, like the elements of a 3.5 essay, looking at transition words and giving examples. The 2 kind of new things are explaining why you decided to go back to school, and then being able to use cause and effect to explain purpose. And then that last part is being able to effectively write a 3.5 essay with minimal grammatical errors. And that's our overall goal for the class. And just to kind of go over the 3.5 essay format again, first paragraph, remember, includes the introduction, thesis, and 3 points. And the introduction and thesis, remember, can kind of be the same thing. Second paragraph is going to have the first point explained with examples. Second point, explained with examples. Fourth paragraph, third point, explained with examples. And then fifth paragraph, conclusion, all 3 points summarized. Questions so far?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Before we write, remember we always want to kind of brainstorm. And so if we go back to our warm-up question and think about that question, what are some different ways people cheat? And we said they cheat on their spouses, they cheat on God, time with God, and they also cheat on tests.
Yes, ma'am.
So those can be our 3 points right there for that topic.
Okay.
And I'll come back to this question of how do we start the second paragraph, because I want to go back to that page that we had before where we kind of list those points, because we said cheat on tests, cheat in marriage, and then cheat on time with God. Okay, and so when we think about these, and if I were to go back and put them in that graphic organizer, if I can, give me a moment, let me pull that up. Okay, we go back to the graphic organizer that we had before, and because I think it might be easier if you see it in the graphic organizer instead of in that other thing that I had. So if we say the first, well, let me see. Let's take one of these. Let's take one of these things. Cheat in marriage, cheat on tests, or cheat on time with God. And instead of using what are some different ways people cheat, let's think about one way. So I'm going to change this introductory statement to one way a person cheats. And we'll come back to kind of how we might form the introductory statement or the thesis statement. So thinking about that, let's pick one of these ways. Which one do you want to use?
I guess we can go with cheat on time with God.
Okay, sounds good. And when we think about this one, cheating on the time with God, what are some reasons why? So we can think of 3 reasons why, and these can be our 3 points. So the first reason, what might be a reason someone would cheat on time with God?
I think of a way to put that in words. They don't have time for worship?
Okay.
Or they?
You said not having time to worship?
Right.
How can we make it more specific?
Okay.
And I'm trying to think of some reasons people would cheat on God. Okay, not having time to worship. Let's say
they're too busy.
Go ahead, say it again.
Too busy.
Okay, too busy. Okay, too busy. And I don't know if the graphic organizer is clear, but this would be your first paragraph. Whatever's in here, this top part up here would be the first paragraph. And then the second paragraph, as you see the arrows come down and then come down again, all of this to the left is your second paragraph. Then from here, the middle box and circle, this would be your third paragraph, the second. And then everything to the right would be your fourth paragraph, which is your third reason. And so I kind of color-coded it, you know, first paragraph, you're always going to have the whole 3 things in your first paragraph. But when you get to your second paragraph, you're going to include this in the first paragraph. So it'll be the step or the reason number 1, why, and then too busy, and then some specific things that you're too busy with. And so then our second reason or second point or reason that people cheat on time with God, we said they're too busy. Can you think of a second point or a second reason?
They say they're too tired.
Okay, too tired. Okay, and then can you think of a third reason?
They don't put enough importance on it.
Okay, don't put important. Or let me see. I'll say not.
Lack of importance.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of how to word it differently. Okay, and so when we get down here and we're thinking about too busy for our first reason, what could be some specific examples about being too busy?
Activities with the kids.
Okay. Can you think of another thing?
Job.
Job, okay, and one more.
School.
Okay, oh yeah, good, very good. And then for the second reason, or the second point, being too tired, what could be some specific examples about being too tired? I was going to say some of those seem like they might overlap, so I'm trying to think of some different ones. And maybe staying up too late?
Yeah.
Okay. And then maybe we can think of one more. We may not be able to think of two more.
It does kind of overlap with the first one. If you put too much in your day and you get really tired because you were so busy during the day that you're too tired to say to read your Bible before you go to bed, or
okay, so let's say overloaded with activities.
Yeah.
Okay. And that may kind of overlap, but this can be activities, not necessarily with the kids, but just peer activities or errands.
Errands. Yeah.
Okay. And then we'll come back to a third one because that one kind of overlaps a little bit. And this is where when you start to put it in a graphic organizer, where you may see that things kind of overlap, and so you may say, well, I may have to go back and change a reason or get something else. But for the purpose of
we could change too tired to selfishness.
Oh, okay. I like that one. Well, instead of me erasing that, I'm just going to put it down here at the bottom. Selfish. I do like that one a lot. Okay, so with that being said, what might be some things that could go for specific examples of selfishness?
You don't want to get up earlier to spend time with God because your sleep is too important to you.
Okay. Okay, and can you think of another specific example for?
You'd rather do extracurricular activities than go to church.
I like that. And then I'll leave the third one since we're kind of running out of. And then what about the third example, lack of importance?
People don't think about building I don't know how to shorten this, but they don't put the importance on building a relationship with God. They only put their importance on what God can do for them.
Okay, so I can just say building relationships not important. And then, of course, we can always add the other point, the rest of that in the paragraph, the actual paragraph. Okay, building relationship not important. Can we think of another thing that might be a lack of another specific example?
Let's see. People don't worship because they don't put enough importance. They'll pray. Let's see.
And I'm trying to think.
They don't take the time to read the Bible because, well, the preacher's just going to tell them about it on Sunday. They learn, what they learn from church. They don't put importance on reading the Bible and memorizing Scripture.
Okay, I got it. So we can say not important to learn on their own. Rely on preacher. Okay, good one. And we'll stop there. I mean, because you can always add more or less as you go. And so with that, we can kind of begin to develop a 3.5 essay from all of this, because this would give us a cause and effect as to why people cheat on the time with God. Why? Well, because they're too busy, they're selfish, and it's a lack of importance to them. And remember our transition words before every paragraph. This just kind of helps you build it. So if you were to start a second paragraph, that kind of goes back to that question here in the PowerPoint, how would we start our second paragraph? If we were to go back and then look at these, our second paragraph, of course, could start with a transition word. But with that, some of our transition words that we could use for a cause and effect essay could be things like as a result of, for this reason, the first cause, or the most important cause, accordingly, as a result, consequently. Some of those things can be used for cause and effect. And we're not limited to those. We can definitely use some other ones. But I was thinking maybe we could just say, okay, well, people cheat on God, on their time with God for many reasons. They're too busy, they're selfish, and it's a lack of importance. And then maybe the next paragraph could say something like, for example, people are too busy. Usually they're busy with the kids. They take the time out to do everything with the kids, maybe taking them to soccer practice, or maybe getting them in ballet. And they're doing all of these things for their children, but they're not taking time for God. Or maybe their job, they work long hours. They want to work overtime, maybe because they have debt, and so they're trying to get more money. Or maybe school. Maybe they've gone back to school and they're taking so many classes that they don't make the time to spend time with God. And so that could be a way to start the second paragraph. And then, of course, you would kind of start the third and fourth paragraph similar to that way, Or you could say another example why people cheat on their time with God is because they're selfish, and then go into those specific examples. And you might want to give an example or two if you don't feel like you have enough sentences. So if we were to go back to the first one with activities to the kids, you may say, well, for example, I have a friend whose daughter is in the or cheerleading. I will use cheerleading. I have a friend whose daughter is a cheerleader, and she spends all of her weekends at cheerleading camps and cheerleading competitions or something like that. And so she never takes time out to come to church or read her Bible, because she's always so involved with cheerleading.
Okay.
So something to that extent is how we kind of develop those different paragraphs. And again, then the third paragraph would be kind of the same way, and the fourth paragraph, very similar, just using those different points for each of those paragraphs. And then, of course, this paragraph does the same thing. It just kind of sums everything up. And I think you did a really good job, Pam, of summing everything up, kind of using different wording, but still kind of saying the same thing about painting and how you developed this beautiful piece of furniture after you did all of the work to it. And so this can be the same thing. We go to church for many different reasons, but do we ever really spend that time at home with God? A lot of us are cheating on our time with God because we're not putting in the extra time. Either we're too busy, we're selfish, or it's a lack of importance. So you're kind of saying the same thing, but maybe wording it a little differently. Okay. Questions about that?
No, ma'am. Well, one question: Are the transition words that we use in a purpose essay different than the transition words we would use in other types? I mean, are there certain types of transition words that we have to use for certain types of essays?
Very good question. And no, not exactly. You can use just about any transition word for any type of essay as long as it makes sense. But there are some specific transition words that actually are specific for different things. And I say that because when you look back at chapter, I want to say it was chapter 3, and so let me go there because it actually breaks down the transition words into several different parts. And that's just to give you a broader use of transition words. So they break it down into the function. And so the function of the transition word can be, it's either used for addition, which means you're adding something. So those words are kind of like also, finally, for one thing, furthermore, in addition, because you're adding something, adding a thought or adding another point. A concession of a point, those things might be certainly, even so, indeed, of course, because you're actually, being concise. Here, comparison and contrast, if you want to compare and contrast something. You might say as well, or equally, even so, or however, nevertheless. Effect or result, those things, if you're, like with our paragraph, our essay that we're about to write, we are trying to get a cause and effect of why we went back to school. So we might say the effect of that, consequently, hence, accordingly, or therefore. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Do you see in your book, is it broken down by the function for the transition words?
In Chapter 2, they say there's some transitional expressions you can use in time order paragraphs, in emphatic order paragraphs, space order paragraphs.
And emphatic is just putting emphasis on it. Is there a long list of them? Is it in Chapter 2 or Chapter 3 of your book?
Chapter 2 is what I'm looking at right now.
Okay. And so just kind of, if you look at that, it'll give you some different transition words or expressions for the different functions. But keep in mind, you don't necessarily have to use a specific one for that specific function. You can use just about any transitional word or expression as long as it makes sense. And I'm glad you asked that question. Very good question.
Thank you.
Very good question. So no, you don't necessarily have to use one for cause and effect, but it's just giving you a broader range. And because our common transition words are first, second, third, finally, or in conclusion. Those are some of the common ones. But it's helpful to kind of expand outside of that, which is actually broadening your vocabulary as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you don't have to do that, but it just kind of helps, if that makes sense.
Okay, it does. Because there are, and it seems to be in Chapter 3, there's some more transition words. There seems to be some transition words in every chapter.
Yeah, and I think they're putting the transition words with the actual topic that the chapter is talking about. I want to say that's how they're doing it. Okay. Did you have any other questions, Sam?
No, ma'am.
Okay. This next slide talks about the first paragraph again, and then it says this paragraph should contain the thesis, the hook, and your 3 points. And I think that's what you were talking about, that you were, having trouble coming up with your hook in your actual paper. And so,
yes, ma'am.
I think that we'll talk about that too. So maybe we can kind of brainstorm and see if we can come up with some different things or different ways that you can start your paragraph. But I didn't mean to start that right now. Hold on. But can you hear the okay?
Can I hear? Yes, I can hear the music and stuff. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to start. This was a short clip on cause and effect, and so I'm going to just show this. So then this may kind of help you think of some things too. But I don't know if they necessarily go into the hook, but I know they do talk about cause and effect, which may help somewhat. So we'll look at this, and then we'll talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
Writing about causes and effects requires careful, critical thinking. It means searching for connections and reasons. To understand a cause, we look to the past for reasons why something is the way it is. Why did this happen? How did this happen? To discover an effect, we look to the future to figure out what the result of an action might be. pain equals doctor bills and time off work. Cause and effect paragraphs explain the connections we find between events or ideas. These guidelines will help you write good cause and effect paragraphs. Write a topic sentence that makes a clear statement about what you are going to analyze. Decide what you are analyzing and whether you are going to focus on causes, what led up to an event, effects, the results of an event, or both. Choose facts and details to support your topic sentence. These facts and details are the causes or effects that fully explain your topic sentence. Try to anticipate your reader's questions and then answer them in your paragraph. Why were you speeding? I was late to work. Be careful to identify the real causes and effects of your topic. Don't stop too early in your analysis. Digging deeper will help you avoid confusing causes and effects with coincidences. Organize your material so it communicates your message as clearly as possible. Present your details in a logical order, perhaps chronologically or from one extreme to another. After you write your first draft, revise it. When you are satisfied with your revision, apply the editing checklist.
Okay. Did you have any questions about the video, Pam?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to skip that question about what did we get, because I think your main thing was trying to come up with a hook for your essay. And so do you want to kind of brainstorm and see if you can kind of think of some different things?
Okay, well, I came up with, let's see if I can figure out where I put it. Like I said, I had 2 pages worth of let's start this sentence and then restart this sentence.
And you're writing about why you went back to college, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And one of mine were, let's see. Well, I started out with people attend college for many reasons. And then I went to, would you like to find a high-paying career? And I thought, nah, that's not going to work. And then I said, you may ask why someone at my age with 2 children to support would return to college. And then I went to, some people may think that it's crazy for a 40-something-year-old single mother of 2 to return to college.
Okay.
And then, well, that's kind of as far as I went.
Okay. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you think about college?
When I think about college in general, or obtaining knowledge for a certain career.
Okay. What about, if you're thinking about first thing that comes to mind when you think about college, what about after college? What are your thoughts?
Applying what I learned to, excuse me, to help people.
Okay. Anything else?
Money. You know, what the career I chose should provide a decent living for my children, myself and my children.
Okay. What about challenges during college?
Maintaining the 4.0
Okay.
is my biggest challenge.
Okay. And what else?
Scheduling my time.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Okay, scheduling time, and what else? Can you think of anything else?
So time management, 4.0, completing all my assignments on time. Well, I guess that would go with managing time, though.
Okay, so maybe we can't think of anything else on that one. And I'm doing this just kind of like, if you think about brainstorming and thinking about some of the things, your challenges, what comes to mind after college, and when you think about college, then maybe you can come up with a hook from any of these things, or maybe not from any of these things, but maybe it will help you think about something that will catch the reader's attention. And it could be anything from scheduling time, or let me see, college. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I kept, every time I would try to come up with a sentence, then I would end up putting my 3 points into that sentence, and I knew that they needed to be separate. You know, as far as you needed your hook, and then you needed your sentence with your 3 points in it. But I couldn't come up with a separate sentence that didn't have my 3 points in it.
Okay. Think about what you would want your readers to see when they first look at your essay that would make them want to continue reading your paper. And that's, and even thinking about brainstorming some of those things, maybe college life, the college experience, goals for college, maybe why college. And it could be a question that you ask them. It could be asking, why would someone go back to college? And some of the questions, I'm trying to think of what were the questions they asked in the syllabus. Some things like, well, why are you in college? What brought you here? Maybe developing 1 or 2 of those questions and thinking about an opening question or an opening statement. So I'm thinking, let me see, it could be, I don't want to say exactly what they said, but why are you in college? So it might be something as far as, what are some reasons people return to college? And maybe thinking of, instead of, or maybe even before answering it, there are many different reasons why people return to college. What are some reasons people return to college, and then your 3 points or something to that extent.
Okay, yeah, because, I mean, I went with, you know, there was a couple of them, you know, people pursue college education for many different reasons. The 3 of the reasons that I chose to go back to college are whatever.
Okay. And that sounds...
I mean, does that sound okay?
Yeah, it does. It doesn't, you know, again, it doesn't have to be something, you know, that's kind of like kaboom. As long as it makes the reader join in your paper and want to read it. And so asking a question definitely makes the reader want to say, oh, well, I want to know about that, or what are those reasons?
Okay, because, I mean, I even had, you may ask why a single mother of 2 or a 40-something-year-old woman or 40-something-year-old single mother of 2 would decide to go back to college.
Mm-hmm.
Or why would you would think, wow, oh, I don't know.
And I like that one that you just said, Pam, because that another 40-something-year-old single mother or two, or single mother, period, saying, well, why did she choose, and if she can do it, I can do it.
Okay, so I was on the right track and just didn't know I was.
Yeah, and usually you are. You're usually pretty good on the right track and on the opening statement.
Okay, do you have any suggestions on how I can make this not so hard for myself? I seem to keep making this harder than it needs to be.
Yeah, and I think probably because you want to do a good job, and that's good. That's a good thing. But I don't want you to be so stressed that you feel like, oh, it's not perfect, I can't go on. Your last paper, and as well as the first one, really good papers, really strong papers. And I definitely could see from this last paper, even from the first paper, I could see the improvement, which didn't need to be a whole lot, but I could definitely see the improvement as far as how you develop your 3 points. I could tell where the 3 points were. I could point them out in the second, third, and fourth paragraph. I definitely could see your conclusion. So you're doing a good job. So I don't want you to stress so much on that opening or that hook. In the future, maybe, yeah, but I think once you write enough of these papers that we're doing in here, it'll come to you a lot more easier. And like I said, a lot of the things that you're already doing it, you just don't realize you're doing it.
Okay.
And I don't know if that helps you to not, your question was, do I have any suggestions that would help you not be so stressed? I don't know if that helps, but maybe it helps you to relax and say, okay, well, I'm already doing this, so I can relax a little.
Okay, well, I guess, yeah, and I'll write the first thing that comes to my mind. I'll do it the way I think, and then I'll wait for your feedback to see if I need to change up anything on the next paper.
Okay.
That might help.
Okay.
Because I think I'm putting too much pressure on myself to make it absolutely perfect, that it's taken me forever to do it, and it shouldn't take as long as it is taking.
No, you can basically write a 3.5 essay, I would say, in 30 minutes maybe.
It takes me 2 or 3 days.
Oh, wow, yeah. And, well, if you're brainstorming, if you're thinking about your reasons and your points, then, yeah, maybe a couple of days to put all of your information together. But, I think on a scale, once you begin to get the pattern down pat, I think it won't take you that long. I don't think it will take you at all.
Well, that's encouraging, at least.
Huh?
I said that's encouraging, at least.
Yeah, I definitely don't think once you get this down pat, once you begin to continue to write, and after a while, it won't take you that long. And so, I think it'll begin to be more like off the top of your head.
So basically in this essay, you want the cause. The cause would be what caused me to decide to go back to school, which that could be the fact that my husband divorced me and I'm now a single mother of 2. I need to support my children, but more importantly, because I feel like this is the direction that God's leading me to go.
Yes, and that definitely can be all of your reasons, your causes, exactly. So it can be causes and effects, or it can just be causes. As I think the book talks about having different, having a paper. Remember the video said that it can be a paper about the cause, or it can be a cause and effect paper, or it can be about just effects. So either one of those, yes, fine. And those 3 things, or if you're either one of those things or all of those things, are very good reasons or causes.
Okay, now a classification essay is the same thing as a cause and effect essay?
Tell me where you see classification essay.
Chapter 9.
Okay, let me go and see so I can make sure I'm answering your question correctly.
Because aren't we supposed to be in Chapter 9 and 10?
Actually, Chapter 11 for the purpose essay, because it was coming from cause and effect. And
well, now that could be a reason why.
Why you might
Because if I,
classification essays are actually classifying things into categories. And so you really wouldn't need your classification essay for your purpose for going back to college. Because this essay is a purpose essay, it's going to deal with your cause and effect, your purpose.
okay, because if I look at week 4, which is what we're in, right?
Uh-huh.
It says Chapter 9 and 10.
And I see that.
So when I go to Chapter 9 and 10, I see classification, and I think that's what was kind of confusing me, because
and I agree. I definitely agree that it can be confusing, and I see it. I'm looking at the syllabus right now, and I do see it. And I must admit, I did not do the syllabus.
Oh, yes.
So I apologize. And I'm trying to see if there's anything in here that might help you, because I can see them classifying the different things, especially when they're talking about using a common classification principle, and then they talk about the types of annoying phone calls. And your book may be different because I have an older edition. And then they talk about the reasons why people buy cell phones and the types of long-distance services, and then the types of customer reactions to telephone salespeople. And then you're sorting them into categories, like a telephone survey, a prank call, or a wrong number. I'm not sure if this would help you with your purpose, and it might be, because I'm trying to see what your discussion board post is about this week.
It was verbs.
Okay, because 5 grammatical rules, and that's coming
yes.
from 25 and 26. I would stick with Chapter 11 for this paper because it might help you a little bit more. And I'm looking, comparing and contrasting. I don't.
That's kind of what was confusing me. I'm thinking, well, I don't really know. Because classification didn't seem like that was the same as cause and effect.
Yeah, and I don't think. I really don't think that comparison and contrasting is going to help you much either with why did you go back to college. Unless maybe you're thinking about the difference between high school and college and you're listing those similarities and differences. But I would reference Chapter 11. And I wish I had seen this before now, because I could have sent that in our weekly update. And I think I'll make a note to look at the at next week's. I think next week we're doing the Storybird, and I probably need to meet a little earlier than Thursday to kind of talk about, because the Storybird will be completely different from this. It'll be more of an actual story. And I actually did an example, so I'll post that tonight as well.
Okay.
So you can see an example of my story. Even though it's not real long, I didn't want to make it long, but I did want you to see an example of how you can take the Storybird, take the pictures that they actually have for the different stories, and then come up with a story. So it won't be an essay when we do the story. That's actually going to be an actual written, creative story. And so I do need to post that as well, and kind of some points on that. So I'll have to get some things together too, to kind of put a PowerPoint to make sure that we understand that we're kind of transitioning from the essay to the Storybird. But reference Chapter 11, Pam. I think Chapter 11 will help you better with this
Okay.
purpose essay.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah, and that's Chapter 11. And so for those who are listening and watching the recording, I would reference Chapter 11 for the purpose essay. Okay, and then don't forget to do your revisions, editing when you're finished, and make sure you're proofreading using spell check. You know, I know I'm still making mistakes when I write, so I always have to go back and proofread and edit. And then I just want to come back to our objectives to make sure that we did what we said we were going to do, which was explain the elements of a 3.5 essay in order to write a purpose essay. Do you feel like we've done that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then explain why you decided to go back to school. And I know that's going to come in your essay, but you did kind of point out some of those things. And then using cause and effect to explain purpose. And I think you've done that too because you kind of listed your causes. So not necessarily cause and effect, but you listed one or the other. So do you feel like we've done those two?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then explain transition words and give several examples. Do you feel like we've covered those?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then of course our big goal for this class is to be able to effectively write a 3.5 essay with minimal grammatical errors. So we'll come back to that always because that's our big goal. And then our wrap up, do you think this was helpful again?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then tell me one thing that you'll take away from this session.
How to write my opening sentence.
Okay.
and how to not spend so much time stressing over my opening sentence.
Okay, good. Very good. Okay, do you have any questions, Pam? Any other comments or thoughts?
I don't have any questions, but the comment that I would make is for more students to take advantage of these conference calls. They are very helpful, and it gives you the opportunity to ask the questions that you may have, and why not take advantage of every opportunity that is afforded to you to further your education and do the best that you can do.
Well, thank you. Very well said. Thank you, and I agree.
Well, thank you for taking your time.
Well, Pam, I think in your time out of your busy schedule as well. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
And if you have any other questions or comments or thoughts, just shoot me an email.
Okay, I will. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. You have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.